Everyone. So, based on the readings this week, I think a biologist would define evolution pretty specifically as like a change in the alleles in a population over time. And it's not mainly that like humans came from monkeys or apes or whatever, but about like just these gradual genetic changes in populations across generations through like natural selection and such. And so it's like a scientific definition focused on like biological processes. But when I've heard like non-biologists or people online talk about evolution, it's usually framed like a lot differently. It's a lot of times described as like life came from nothing, everything is random, meaningless, just directed towards atheism. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in. And the scientific theory itself doesn't make claims about purpose or meaning, and it just describes the biological mechanisms. But people often attach their philosophical ideas to it, and that's kind of where the tensions are. And so I'd say for whether a Christian is like allowed to believe in evolution, I would say they are. I don't think a specific scientific explanation of how God created is a core doctrine of Christianity, and core beliefs are things like the Trinity and Jesus' death and resurrection, salvation by grace, and those are essential. And the Bible clearly teaches that like God is the creator, and it doesn't necessarily explain the mechanism in modern scientific terms. And so some Christians believe that God created through evolutionary processes, and that doesn't automatically deny his like authority on that. And then when it comes to like creation accounts in Genesis, I think we just have to remember the historical context in that around 1450 BCE, Israel was surrounded by other ancient Near Eastern cultures with their own creation stories. And so Genesis kind of stands out because it shows that one sovereign God creating intentionally and calling creation good, and that it also emphasized that humans are made in God's image, which gave people dignity and purpose in a way that was like countercultural at that time. And so I don't really read Genesis as like a modern science textbook. And I read it more as like a theological statement about who God is, who we are, why we're here, how we were created in his image. And I think that message still very greatly applies today, even if the cultural context is super different. And so for me, evolution definitely addresses like the biological processes, but then Genesis addresses meaning and identity, and those don't have to cancel each other out or be like away from each other. They can be synonymous, and they can be something that even God wanted for it to be. And so I think those are my thoughts.